It is taken out of the book, We the People. So you have a choice to follow along in the book, starting on Lesson 13, page 99. Or I have the words written on here. But first, we're going to watch a video off Discovery Education on the legislative branch.
Many people believe that the Founding Fathers thought of the legislative branch as the most important because they described it in the first article or section of the Constitution. This branch is also known as Congress, and its job is to make laws. The Founding Fathers didn't want just one group of people to be able to make laws, so they created two unique sections of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate. In order for laws to be created, these two sections of the legislative branch had to work together to come to an agreement. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives work at the U.S. Capitol Building in Washington, D.C. Although they share the common goal of creating laws, each section is unique. Let's take a closer look at the Senate. The Senate is made up of 100 people known as senators. 2 people from each of the 50 United States are elected to make decisions on behalf of their state in the Senate. Can anyone campaign to become a senator from their state? Well, the Constitution lists 3 requirements for anyone wishing to become a U.S. senator. First, you must be a U.S. citizen for at least 9 years before joining the Senate. Second, you must be at least 30 years of age. And third, you must live in the state you wish to represent. Once elected, senators have their jobs for 6 years before they must be re-elected by the citizens of their state. The second section of Congress is the House of Representatives. This is a much larger group of people. While there are 100 seats in the Senate, there are 435 seats in the House. The number of representatives each state sends to Congress depends on how many people live in that state. States with more people have more representatives. For example, there are currently 53 representatives from the state of California, 5 from the state of Connecticut, and only 1 from the state of Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be a representative must be a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years, be at least 25 years old, and must live in the state they wish to represent. Once elected, members of the House of Representatives have their jobs for 2 years before they must be re-elected by the voters in their state. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives can introduce bills that can become laws, declare war, and pass the national budget or spending plan. In other areas, the House and Senate each has its own powers. It is only members of the House of Representatives, for example, that can introduce bills that deal with spending government money or charging people more taxes. Senators, on the other hand, are the only ones who can approve or reject agreements with other countries, and the President's recommendations for who should fill important government jobs. Let's take a moment to review. Question number 1. How many senators are elected to represent each state? A, 1, B, 2, C, 5, or D? It depends on how many people live in a particular state. The correct answer is B. 2 senators are elected to represent each state in the Congress. Here's question number 2. How many seats are there in the U.S. House of Representatives? A, 100, B, 325, C, 435, or D, 500? You were correct if you chose C and knew that there were 435 seats in the House of Representatives. Let's try one more. Question number 3. What is a power that the House of Representatives has that the Senate does not? A, the House can declare war. B, the House can introduce government spending bills. C, the House can approve the President's choice for an important government job. Or D, A and C? The correct answer is B. The House can introduce government spending bills. Now that we have learned about the legislative branch, let's move on to the branch of government described in Article 2 of the Constitution, the executive branch.
We are going to save the executive branch for another time. So now we're going to go back to our PowerPoint here. From the We the People book, the blue book, and lesson 13 on page 99. So if you take a moment, you can either look at the book or share the book or follow along with me. So starting at the purpose of this lesson, you have learned that the legislative branch makes our laws. Our national legislature is Congress. In this lesson, you will learn about the powers of Congress. You will learn something about how Congress makes laws. You will also learn how our Constitution limits the powers of Congress. When you have finished this lesson, you should be able to describe how Congress is organized, what powers it has, and how its powers are limited. You should also be able to explain how a law is made. Okay, this is page 100. What is Congress? That's a really nice subtitle. Congress is the legislative branch of our national government. It makes our nation's laws. As you have learned, the framers created two houses of Congress. The two houses are the Senate and the House of Representatives. Let's start with the Senate. Senators must be at least 30 years old. They must have been citizens of the United States for at least 9 years. They must live in the state that they represent. Senators are elected to serve for 6 years. Each state sends 2 persons to the Senate. Today, the United States Senate has 100 senators. House of Representatives. Representatives must be at least 25 years old. They must have been citizens for at least 7 years, and they must live in the district they represent. Representatives are elected to serve for 2 years. The number of representatives each state can send to the House is based on its population. Currently, each member of the House represents about 650,000 people. When the Constitution was written, each member represented 30,000 people. The total number of representatives is now limited to 435. There are 5 representatives from other parts of our country: the District of Columbia, American Samoa, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the United States Virgin Islands. In 2003, California had the most people. California sent 52 representatives to the House. Wyoming had the smallest population. Wyoming and 6 other states each sent 1 representative to the House. This is on page 101. What powers does Congress have? Article 1 of the Constitution lists the powers of Congress. Some of these powers are very specific. For example, Congress has the power to tax the people, raise an army and navy to defend our nation, declare war, create a court system, and coin money or make money. Other powers of Congress are very general. The Constitution gives Congress the power to pass all laws that are necessary and proper to carry out its responsibilities. For example, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act to prevent unfair discrimination against some citizens. Provide for the general welfare of the United States. For example, Congress created the National Institutes of Health to support medical research on health issues and to find cures for those who are sick. This is on page 102. How does Congress make a law? Congress provides for the general welfare by passing laws that help people. Suppose that you, a member of Congress, the president, or some group with an interest, has an idea for a new law. How does the idea become a law? Here are the basic steps that must be followed. Number 1, you're all very good at this because you've all completed it. Write a bill. A member of Congress must agree that the idea is good. Then he or she writes a proposal for the bill, which is called a bill. A bill is a proposed law. Number 2, it will go to committee. Congress has committees that deal with different areas of the people's needs. A committee will examine the bill. The members of the committee discuss the bill, and then they might rewrite it, change some parts, or decide that it is not a good bill. Number 3, get a majority vote of Congress. When the bill is ready, the member of Congress who wrote the bill must get a majority of members to vote for it. If the member is a senator, the bill goes to the Senate first. If she or he is a representative, it goes to the House of Representatives first. Then the bill goes to the other house for a vote. Number 4, get the president to approve the bill. If the bill passes in both houses, Congress must send the bill to the president. If the president approves the bill and signs it, it becomes a law. If the president refuses to sign the bill and sends it back to Congress, this is a veto. The bill can still become a law if 2/3 of all members of Congress vote to pass it over the president's veto. This is page 103. How does the Constitution limit the powers of Congress? The Constitution and Bill of Rights limit the powers of Congress. They list the kinds of laws that Congress may not make. For example, Congress may not make a law that unfairly and unnecessarily limits your freedom to speak. That would be number 1 amendment of the Bill of Rights that some of you are memorizing. Suppose Congress passed a bill saying you cannot criticize the national government. Then the president signed the bill and it became a law. How might this law be overturned? How are your rights protected? The Supreme Court has the power to declare a law made by Congress unconstitutional. Unconstitutional means that the Constitution does not give Congress the right to pass such a law. If the Supreme Court says this, then the law cannot be enforced. It's no longer a law. This is another check on Congress. Because remember, the founding fathers had just gotten rid of King George, who made all their decisions, and they had no say. They did not want another King George, so they created the system of checks and balances so that one branch of government would not become more powerful than another branch. Finally, what are the responsibilities of senators and representatives? Members of Congress are responsible for making laws that protect our rights and promote our welfare. To make laws, members of Congress first must learn about the problems of our country. There are groups with special interests that try to convince members of Congress to make laws that benefit their groups. Congress must find ways to deal with the problems that concern these groups, as well as the people as a whole. Senators and representatives talk to the people in their states and districts. They read letters sent by citizens. They listen to debates and attend committee meetings. Making good laws is not easy. A bill might help some people, while it hinders others. Members of Congress must decide whether to vote for or against each bill. So the next class participation activity will help you understand how difficult it can be to decide if a bill deserves support. Now, if you want to read about that, 5th grade, you can go on into the book and take a look at the activity in purple on page 104 all the way to page 107. But we went through that activity when we showed that example of the student's bill. Now, this is the piece of paper that you should have in front of you, your study guide. And now that you have listened to or read through this information, you should be able to answer the first 2 pages of this study guide. So this is the end of the information on the legislative branch.